know who made it.
Ownership. Both of these topics excite me. They're a little bit annoying for people that are around me and in my household, and I'll teach you why it makes me laugh. So, first thing is drinking coffee today and fasting till around lunchtime. And I'm on this like weird raw milk diet, like just been trying to drink a lot of that, trying to get off the regular milk. And I just believe it's like dead. I believe it when they heat it up, I think they kill everything that's good in it. And I've noticed like my skin's a lot better. I feel a lot better. I don't crave its sugar as much, which is a weakness to me. I'll eat everything. So I really need to get off that like sugar train. I think that helps. I don't know if it's all like the fats and the sugars in there, but it really gets rid of my craving for ice cream. So it's really cool. And why talking about that is because I always thought I needed breakfast, right? And I always thought I needed like huge meals before training. And I'm sure for some people they may, but for me, that was almost like a limiting belief that I had to have food before I did all this in the day or had to work out. And then I realized my energy was down later in the day. And it was probably because of what I was eating, also. I do believe in that. But I also realized like I was a lot faster and I had more mental clarity when I didn't eat. And I think that was like a limiting belief that was holding me back. I had to spend more time eating this awful breakfast and all these meals before training and stuff, and it was just holding me back, and it wasn't needed. Um, Also, I was a lot fuller, so that could affect like running. That could affect different training sports if I had different things in my stomach. So that's the first thing I was thinking about with limiting beliefs. So like when I hear about people fasting for so long, I'm like, oh wow, I can never make that. And then all of a sudden I've just hit different peaks and I feel like super cleaned out and it helps me a lot. So it gives me awesome energy, lets me rip. So that's like one limiting belief that I've worked on. So diving more into limiting beliefs and extreme ownership. So one thing that I really like doing is participating in different events. So, like races, competitions, different fitness things. And I believe that's the easiest way to get rid of a limiting belief and translate it to life. That's what I do, anyways. So, if someone's ever like raced with me or done like a fitness thing, usually I get like super serious because I'm like, hey, I want to break through these mental barriers and events. And then when I'm in business and super stuck or in life and stuck, I think about that and I'm like, this is pretty easy because it's just, it's just a mental thing. It's not really like body, I believe. I can push a lot farther than I think. I think like David Goggins talks about like when you think you're done, you're only 40% done. And I've come across that a lot, like especially when running ultras, like your body's just dead and you think you're done, and then all of a sudden, like a few hours later, you finish the race or you're in another wave and you feel good again. It's just your mind telling your body to stop when in reality your body's like, hey, I'm gonna keep going. That's a limiting belief. And I think I like translating that in business a lot. So when you're in a tough predicament or something, if you really just think big picture, like at the end of the day, is this problem going to matter? Like, can I get through this? Am I looking too minuscule at the problem and not coming up with a solution versus just complaining? And that helps me a lot. So let's go back to the limiting beliefs of society, I think, and the media puts on us, and I'm not sure why. So I wish I learned this when I was younger. And basically, I think we're almost like our worst own enemy. So a lot of times when I think I can't do something, I realize like it's a false belief, and I want to just like shake myself. And it's something I've been focusing on a lot lately, but I've learned like later in life, and I wish I learned that when I was younger. So that these different beliefs that we have in our head, they could be given to us by other people. Usually they are. And then all of a sudden we accept them as like our own subconscious and our subliminal mind that they're real. And they're really not. And the reason why I wanted to dive into that like fitness more is because I felt like I couldn't do certain things, and all of a sudden I did do them. So like, what else is there that I can do that I believe I can't? And I think that's really the most limiting thing. And I believe the media, and there's different shows and TV and like songs out there that they embrace that like feel sorry for yourself attitude, and like the world's all against me. I can't do this because of that. And I have all these beliefs that, hold me down. And I love like, just beating that, and seeing people that are blind and they're out there surfing, lost use of their legs and they're still out there running. Like I got my ass whooped by a dude in a race who had no legs. He had the prosthetic legs. Like he didn't give a shit about limiting beliefs. And then there's people that, I think it's Diana Naya, I forget her name, I don't want to pronounce it wrong, swam to, from like Cuba to Florida. Like there's no limiting beliefs there. And I struggle swimming in a pool, So I think it's just, what beliefs are we putting on ourselves to stop ourselves? And that's something I want to focus on more lately. That's why I'm talking about it. So I'm going to keep diving into that and reading how to break through those barriers. I want to listen to videos and podcasts and learn too. And I wanted to share that with you because that's a big thing when I come across people and they have limiting beliefs. Like I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were, kind of down on themselves in a situation and not believing in themselves. And I think of that person like so high, but it's crazy how tough we can be on ourselves if we start limiting and we thinking about other people over us and saying, hey, you can't do this or you shouldn't do this. When it's like, I want to freaking shake them and be like, you just need to go out there and dominate. You don't understand how good you are and how much you can bring to the world if you just believed in yourself. And I don't know why this is such a big thing for certain people, but then not for others. So did they learn it in their childhood? Like, I don't think I did. That's maybe what's limiting me, is I listen to people saying you can't do something versus the people that say you can do something. So like, it doesn't stick out in my head of like, you can be anything you want. It sticks out in my head. I get nervous and I think like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. What are people going to think about that? When it's like, it doesn't matter. Um, you need to really get rid of those, limiting beliefs. And that's something I want to work on, and I just want to destroy them. So, and then another thing I think is extreme ownership. I like to blend those two things because I think we can do anything we set out our mind to. Now, I suck at basketball. I'm not saying that I could be a NBA player, but I'm sure like if I learned when I was younger and practiced at it, and took extreme ownership of learning that sport, I would be very good at it. Versus what I am now, I suck at basketball. But that's just an example, right? And to dive more into extreme ownership, if you haven't read the book, advise reading the book. But the basic principle is own what you do. Now, there's a lot more into it. That's why it's a book, and it talks about, the next one talks about the dichotomy of leadership and things like that. But I bring it into my life is situations, especially in business or life, when they're brought to me, I take ownership for them. So if I'm working and something goes wrong, right, and a client comes to me, I take ownership of that. I either apologize, or sometimes I get better at just owning it. Like, you don't need to apologize every time, but saying, hey, I will fix this, or I believe this is why it happened. I'm going to give this advice or do this to fix it. And it's really cool because people see you as like, hey, this person fixes things. They don't just complain about them. And then you have no one to be mad at but yourself. And that's another huge pro to that mindset, is when something goes wrong, you have no one to blame for yourself. So you don't say like, hey, I couldn't do this, or the reason why this happened is because of that. Like, no, you took extreme ownership. You said, hey, I'll get this done, or the reason why this happened is because it's something that I didn't do. So I do believe that there's solutions for everything, and that's why you should take ownership and not have a limiting belief. So I'm thinking about, say, yesterday something happened where I had to negotiate, and I took ownership of what happened, and I kept thinking like bigger and bigger, not having limiting beliefs, saying, you know what, I can't fix this, but like, how can I find a solution to this problem? I didn't let a limiting belief saying like, hey, I don't have these resources, so I can't do it. I found other resources and got it done. I took ownership for the problem, got it done, and that person actually came back to me and apologized for a little bit for being upset and saying they got overwhelmed. And I really think it puts you at a good leadership position if you do take extreme ownership, because a lot of times that I see when I do take ownership of certain items, the other person that comes to you with the issue says, you know what, no, I'll take ownership. Let me take a little bit of piece of this, or they learn from you rather than when someone comes to you with an issue and you say, well, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. Like, no, take ownership. If you're their leader, you'll figure out how to come up with a solution. And if they're a good employee or a good follower, then they will, find out what you did and they'll use it next time. And it's a really good way to be a role model. And then, like I said, I got a lot out of it, and versus of like happiness. So, like when I was younger, I wish I heard this extreme ownership, because I thought people were against me, or you could say like your government, or because your job or your manager, or a lot of relationships, like they did this, they did that. But if I took ownership, I would have fixed everything. So I wish I read this when I was younger and thought of that. And I see it a lot now, and that's what I wanted to talk about. And that's like a big way to filter out people you want to hang around with, or if they come to you for help, you can almost like teach them these little concepts of like, first of all, get rid of your damn limiting beliefs. Like, you can do anything you want. You just got to learn more about the topic or the situation, and then put it to use. A lot of people think like, oh, I can't do this. No, you just didn't put the effort towards and time to learn it. And then filtering people out is, so I see it's usually younger people, but I guess I could say older people too, because that happens too. But people will come to you and they'll say like, hey, this is happening to me, or it's because of this, or they're complaining. And it almost makes me think like less of them. And I feel bad because they just don't know the topic of, ownership and, taking ownership. And it makes me kind of look down, and I need to get rid of that too. But they're not taking ownership for the problems. They're blaming it on someone else. And it's crazy because you just want to like shake them, and you're like, dude, just freaking own it, and take care of the situation. Stop blaming others. First of all, it makes you look weak, and maybe that's why I don't tend to side with those people. It makes you look weak. You're not contributing to society and the people around you, and you're feeling sorry for yourself, and that's not fixing the situation. So, helping out your family, helping out your company, if you take ownership, like, you will dominate, and then you'll skyrocket your life. And I've seen it. Different companies or businesses that I've been with, when I've taken ownership for issues, I've really skyrocketed, and I've been the person to talk to figure out something. So I hope both these topics, make more sense to you. I really wish that we didn't have those limiting beliefs, but a lot of us do. So I'd recommend like reading books, watching videos, and maybe work on one thing a day. Like, what's something I think I can't do, or what is a false belief that I think about that's not really real. So like, even start small. So you're like, hey, people tell me I can't even run a 5K, and then you go do it today. Like, there's no warm up or anything, just go freaking do it, and then you dominate. Or people think like, you know what, I can't apply to this job, or get a raise, or this project's super hard. Well, is it, or did you just not learn enough about it and practice about it and then fix it? And then extreme ownership really should brighten your life, in that you own everything, and if something goes wrong, it's because of you. And it really makes you more valuable to everyone around you, because if you take ownership, you will fix that, and you will find out solutions to everything. And you'll be the one that your family relies on, your workplace relies on, your company relies on, and your friends rely on. So I hope both of these topics excite you as much as they excite me, and have a good day.